Okay, let's unpack this. We're about to dive into something so common, I mean so pervasive, that we often completely overlook its profound importance.
Mm-hmm.
Water and pH.
Right.
Think about it. We drink it, we swim in it. It literally makes up, what, most of our
The
bodies.
majority, yeah.
But how can something so ubiquitous be absolutely foundational to life itself? Our mission today is, well, to discover the secrets behind water's unique properties, how those properties sculpt the very molecules of life, and why pH is this master regulator, all illuminated by the incredible sources you shared.
That's right. And what's truly compelling about these sources, I think, is their range, from the fundamental molecular chemistry of water all the way to intricate biomedical applications.
Really shows the connection.
Exactly. It shows precisely how critical these factors are for human health. We're not just exploring what water and pH do, but really digging into why they matter so profoundly for biological function, at every single level. It underpins the very complexity of life. Hashtag the marvel of water's structure and properties.
It's pretty amazing to think about. We always hear water called the universal solvent. But what is it about water that makes it so incredibly good at dissolving so many things?
It really all stems from water's dipole nature.
Okay.
Because of its bent shape, that HOH angle is about 104.5 degrees, and the way oxygen strongly pulls electrons away from the hydrogens.
Right. It's greedy.
It is. It's highly electronegative. So each water molecule ends up acting like a tiny magnet. You get a slightly negative end on the oxygen and two slightly positive ends on the hydrogens.
Oh, okay.
This inherent sort of stickiness and its ability to essentially pry apart other charged molecules. That's why it dissolves so much. Think of it as a super effective charge screener.
Charge screener. I like that. It weakens the bonds between ions so they can spread out.
Precisely. Allows them to dissolve.
That's fascinating. So this polarity is the secret sauce behind those famous hydrogen bonds, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Hydrogen bonds are, well, they're essentially electrostatic attractions. They form between a partially positively charged hydrogen in one water molecule, or, another molecule like a protein, and a partially negatively charged atom like oxygen or nitrogen in a neighbor.
Okay.
What's crucial to understand is that while an individual hydrogen bond is relatively weak, weaker than a covalent bond for sure,
Uh-huh.
it's their sheer numbers. The constant forming and breaking of this vast network of bonds that gives water its truly unusual and vital physical properties.
Like countless tiny threads making a strong rope.
That's a great analogy, yeah. For instance, water has remarkably high melting and boiling points compared to other similarly sized molecules.
Yeah.
You need a huge amount of energy to break that extensive dynamic network just to get water to boil at 100 degrees C.
Makes sense.
Water also possesses a high specific heat capacity. Think about it. If our bodies reacted to temperature changes like, say, a metal spoon in heat.
We'd be in trouble. Rapid swings.
Big trouble. Rapid, drastic swings. Water's ability to absorb a lot of heat without changing temperature much ensures we maintain a remarkably stable internal temperature. It makes life possible despite external, chaos. It's basically our built-in climate control.
Huh.
And its high heat of vaporization means a lot of energy is absorbed when liquid water turns into gas. That's absolutely crucial for cooling through evaporation. Sweating, for example.
Next time I'm drenched after a run, I should thank those hydrogen bonds for saving me from overheating.
You absolutely should.
It's incredible to think that these aren't just abstract chemical facts. These properties are fundamental for life's existence, aren't they? From regulating global climate patterns all the way down to ensuring the internal temperature stability of individual organisms.
Couldn't have said it better. Without these unique characteristics, life as we know it just wouldn't be possible. Hashtag how water interacts with biomolecules.
So water's fundamental properties are clearly life-enabling. That's clear. But how does this incredible solvent actually interact with and sort of shape the very molecules that make up our bodies? Proteins, DNA.
Right.
This is where water isn't just a backdrop, is it? It's an active participant in this dynamic dance of biomolecules.
Indeed. Water's polarity and that amazing ability to form hydrogen bonds allow it to interact with biomolecules in several critical ways. First, hydrogen bonds themselves. They're fundamental in stabilizing the three-dimensional structures of proteins and nucleic acids.
Like holding DNA together.
Exactly. They're literally the invisible glue holding DNA's double helix together through specific base pairing. Adenine with thymine, guanine with cytosine, hydrogen bonds.
Okay.
Then you have ionic interactions, often called salt bridges. These are strong electrostatic attractions between oppositely charged groups within molecules, like a positive amino acid side chain attracted to a negative one.
Right, like tiny magnets again?
Pretty much. But here's where water's really clever. Remember that charge screening ability we talked about? Yeah.
Its high dielectric constant reduces the strength of these ionic attractions in an aqueous environment.
Oh, interesting. Why is that good?
It means charged biomolecules can interact dynamically. They can form temporary associations, do their job, and then disassociate easily. That's essential for almost all rapid biological processes like enzyme catalysis or signaling.
Got it. Makes things flexible.
Exactly. Now, next, and this is a truly fascinating concept,
Yeah.
are hydrophobic interactions.
Ah, yes, the water-fearing effect.
Right, but it's not quite that simple. They aren't true bonds like hydrogen or ionic bonds. It's more a thermodynamic tendency for nonpolar, oily, water-fearing groups to cluster together when they're in water.
Okay, why do they do that?
The why is key, and maybe a bit counterintuitive.
Mm-hmm.
Water molecules are highly ordered. They like forming hydrogen bonds with each other. When a nonpolar molecule is introduced, water molecules have to arrange themselves in a sort of structured cage around it to maximize their own hydrogen bonding network, minimizing disruption.
Okay, like they're walling it off. Kind of, but this ordered cage arrangement actually decreases the overall entropy, the disorder of the system. Thermodynamics tells us systems tend towards higher entropy, more disorder.
Right.
So when nonpolar molecules clump together, they reduce the total surface area exposed to water. This frees up many of those ordered water molecules from the cage, allowing them to become more disordered, increasing the system's entropy.
So clumping together is favorable because it makes the water happier, more disordered?
Precisely. It's thermodynamically favorable. And what's truly astonishing is that this hydrophobic effect is a major driving force for crucial biological structures. Think about micelles, those little spheres that soap forms,
Yeah.
with oily tails tucked inside away from water. That's driven by hydrophobic interactions. Even more fundamentally, the lipid bilayers that form all cell membranes.
Wow, so it's water essentially pushing those oily lipid tails together, forming a self-assembling barrier that underpins all cellular existence.
That's a great way to put it. It's almost counterintuitive, like you said, but incredibly powerful.
Mhm.
It's not strong chemical bonds holding membranes together, primarily. It's water's tendency towards disorder.
Mind-blowing.
And finally, just to round it out, we have van der Waals forces. These are very weak, transient attractions that occur between all atoms due to temporary fluctuations in electron distribution. They're individually tiny.
Clearly there.
Almost. But when you have many atoms packed closely together, like in a folded protein, the cumulative effect of all these van der Waals forces becomes significant. They contribute to the overall stability of complex structures.
Okay, so pulling all these pieces together, it really highlights how these dynamic, non-covalent interactions, hydrogen bonds, ionic ones, those amazing hydrophobic effects, and even van der Waals, all driven by water's unique properties, are absolutely fundamental. They dictate the specific 3D shapes and ultimately the functions of proteins, nucleic acids, cell membranes, everything.
They are the invisible hands constantly shaping the machinery of life.
Absolutely. Hashtag tag tag the critical role of pH in biological systems. We've seen how water's unique properties literally sculpt the 3D structures of our key molecules.
Yeah.
But, imagine trying to perform such a delicate molecular ballet in an unstable environment. Things would fall apart, right?
Instantly.
That's where pH comes in, isn't it?
Mhm.
It seems like water's way of ensuring the stage is always set.
Yeah.
The conditions are perfect for life's machinery to function.
Yeah.
So let's get basic for a second. What exactly is pH?
Right. At its core, pH is simply a measure of the hydrogen ion concentration in a solution. Even pure water undergoes a slight constant process called autoionization.
Self-ionizing.
Yeah, HO breaks down into HO, a hydrogen ion, often shown as HO, hydronium ion, and OA, a hydroxide ion. It happens constantly. HO plus OO. Only a tiny fraction does this at any moment, but it's always happening.
Yeah.
pH is formally defined as the negative logarithm, base 10, of the hydrogen ion concentration.
Logarithm. Right, that means small changes have big effects.
Exactly. That logarithmic scale is really important. A change of just one pH unit means a tenfold change in the actual concentration of hydrogen ions.
Wow.
The pH scale typically runs from 0 to 14. Neutral is 7.0, right in the middle. Anything below 7.0 is acidic, more hydrons, and anything above 7.0 is basic or alkaline, fewer hydrons, more OH ions.
And this scale, this number, is so incredibly important for our bodies. I know the normal human blood pH range is famously narrow, like 7.35 to 7.45.
That's exactly right. Incredibly narrow.
And even slight deviations outside that tiny window can lead to severe conditions, acidosis if it's too low, alkalosis if it's too high. It really underscores how little room for error our bodies have.
And that brings us directly to its profound biomedical importance. You mentioned blood, but think about
The
enzymes.
catalysts of life.
Precisely. They drive nearly all cellular reactions. Most enzymes function optimally only within very specific, often very narrow pH ranges.
Their own little sweet spot.
Exactly. If the pH deviates too far from this optimal point, it can disrupt the enzyme's delicate three-dimensional structure, often by changing the ionization state of key amino acid residues.
Messing up those ionic interactions we talked about.
Exactly right. Or hydrogen bonding patterns. This leads to a loss of activity, which can have severe functional consequences for the cell and ultimately the entire organism.
Okay, it's clearly vital to keep pH stable, but it's hard to fathom how, with all the metabolic activity constantly churning out acids and bases in the body, how does our system manage to keep pH so incredibly stable within that tiny 7.35, 7.45 range in blood? What's the body's secret?
It is a vital balancing act, a constant tightrope walk.
Hmm.
And the body achieves this remarkable stability primarily through sophisticated buffer system.
Buffers, oh yeah.
Buffers are typically mixtures of a weak acid and its conjugate base. Think of them like sponges for H ions. They work by resisting changes in pH. If you add a little acid HE, the conjugate base component of the buffer gobbles it up. If you add a little base, which removes HA, the weak acid component releases HA to replace it.
So they kind of soak up the excess or replenish the deficit.
That's a good way to put it. They maintain a relatively stable pH despite additions of acid or base. One of the most critical physiological buffer systems, the main one in human blood, is the bicarbonate buffer system.
Right, I've heard of that.
It involves carbonic acid, HHU, which is a weak acid, and its conjugate base, bicarbonate, HU. If the blood becomes too acidic, too much HU, bicarbonate ions react with the excess H to form carbonic acid.
Neutralizing it.
Effectively, yes. Conversely, if the blood becomes too alkaline, too little H, carbonic acid can dissociate to release H, counteracting the rise in pH.
Clever system.
It is. And to really understand how these buffer systems work so well, especially around a specific pH, scientists use an equation called a Henderson-Hasselbalch equation.
Okay, sounds complicated.
Well, the math can look a bit daunting. pH equals pK plus log, Veil edge. But the concept is key. The pK is the pH at which the weak acid is exactly half dissociated, half acid, half conjugate base. Buffers work best. They resist pH changes most effectively when the pH is close to their pKa.
So the bicarbonate system's pK must be near blood pH.
It's actually around 6.1, which seems a bit off from 7.4, but, and this is crucial, it works in concert with our lungs. Because carbonic acid is formed from coco-uro and water, plus H-uro-uro, the lungs can rapidly adjust key uros by changing breathing rate. Breathe faster, blow off C-uros, reduce carbonic acid, raise pH. Breathe slower, retain CROs, increase carbonic acid, lower pH.
So it's not just the buffer chemicals, but the whole physiological system working together.
Exactly. The kidneys also play a huge role, though slower. They can excrete excess acid or base in the urine and regulate the reabsorption of bicarbonate. It's this combination chemical buffers like bicarbonate, rapid respiratory control via the lungs, and slower metabolic control via the kidneys that maintains that incredibly precise pH homeostasis.
It's truly an intricate dance, this pH regulation. A continuous, vital balancing act, absolutely essential for, well, pretty much every single cellular process and our overall physiological function.
Couldn't function without it. Hashtag tag outro.
So the big picture here, summing up this deep dive,
Yeah.
it feels like we've seen how that unique dipole nature, that stickiness of water, and its pervasive hydrogen bonding give it those special, life-sustaining properties, high boiling point, heat capacity, all that.
Or the foundation.
And we've explored how these properties drive crucial non-covalent molecular interactions. You know, hydrogen bonds holding DNA, ionic interactions made flexible by water, and especially those fascinating hydrophobic interactions, basically pushing things together to create membranes.
Shaping the molecules of life.
Exactly. Shaping them. And finally, we've unpacked how, in concert with sophisticated buffer systems like bicarbonate, the regulation by lungs and kidneys, water-dependent pH maintains that incredibly precise balance required for absolutely all biological processes.
Yeah, what this really emphasizes, I think, is the profound integration. These seemingly simple chemical principles, polarity, hydrogen bonding, ionization, are woven into the very fabric of life itself.
It's not just background chemistry.
Not at all. From the microscopic interactions between molecules shaping proteins all the way up to the macroscopic stability of an organism's internal environment, water and pH are active, indispensable participants. They ensure stability and function at every single level.
When you think about it like that, it's just incredible. All of life, built on something so basic, so common, yet so profoundly unique in its properties.
Remarkable.
And as we consider water's pivotal, and let's face it, often unseen role in maintaining this delicate balance of life,
Hmm.
it really makes you wonder, imagine the challenges extraterrestrial life forms might face if their primary solvent wasn't water, if it had vastly different chemical properties.
Interesting thought.
What unexpected solutions, what completely different biological architectures might have evolved to cope with such a different chemical reality, something to ponder, perhaps.